Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is David. Today we are going to explore the vital role of well-being and thriving in any educational space. We'll discuss the science of well-being, the connections between teacher well-being and student success, and strategies for creating an environment where all learners can thrive. Let's get into it. Well-being is a multidimensional concept that encompasses emotional, psychological, and social aspects of a person's life. It's not just about feeling good, but about functioning well, having a sense of purpose, and living a meaningful life. Positive psychology defines well-being as a combination of positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment, collectively known as PERMA. However, there are different models and theories that can help us understand the concept of well-being. This concept of well-being can be understood through two main philosophical traditions, Hedonia and Eudaimonia. Hedonia is focused on the pursuit of pleasure, positive emotions, and the reduction of pain. This form of well-being emphasizes short-term happiness, contentment, and pleasure. Eudaimonia, on the other hand, is about living a life of purpose, realizing one's potential, and achieving long-term fulfillment. Aristotle's ideas on eudaimonia suggest that well-being is not merely about experiencing positive feelings, but about engaging in activities that promote personal growth, moral development, and meaningful contributions to society. And there is research that supports this distinction as well, because people who experience higher levels of both hedonic pleasure and eudaimonic meaning tend to report greater overall well-being. Thus, while short-term positive emotions are important, they are not enough on their own to achieve long-term fulfillment. We need a balance of both. In positive psychology, eudaimonic well-being is often emphasized as the key to flourishing. Two well-known models help explain how people can achieve eudaimonic well-being: Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Riff's? I've no idea. Riff's psychological well-being model. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that once basic psychological needs, such as food and shelter, are met, individuals strive for higher level goals, such as safety, love, esteem, and ultimately self-actualization, the realization of one's full potential. And according to Maslow, self-actualization is the pinnacle of human development, where a person is fully capable of achieving their unique potential and contributing meaningfully to society. Now, the Carol Reif model of psychological well-being, developed in 1989, is another widely used framework for understanding eudaimonic well-being. It includes 6 components: life purpose, autonomy, personal growth, environmental mastery, positive relationships, and self-acceptance. Reif's model emphasizes that true well-being isn't simply the absence of mental illness, but the active pursuit of growth, self-discovery, and fulfillment. One of the most crucial factors in promoting well-being in schools is the well-being of teachers themselves. Teachers' well-being is directly linked to student outcomes, and when teachers experience positive well-being, they create an environment where students feel supported, motivated, and engaged. Research has demonstrated that teacher well-being is a key predictor of student success, both academically and emotionally. When teachers are emotionally exhausted or experiencing burnout, they are less able to support the psychological needs of their students. Self-determination theory tells us that in order to thrive, both teachers and students need their basic psychological needs to be met: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. When teachers have the autonomy to make decisions in their classrooms, feel competent in their teaching, and experience positive relationships with their students, they are more likely to foster these same needs in their students. Furthermore, teachers who experience high levels of well-being tend to have more positive interactions with students, which in turn influences student motivation and engagement. Studies have shown that teacher well-being has a cascading effect, because when teachers are well, their students are more likely to feel motivated, connected, and successful. So, what can we do in schools to foster well-being? There's a few things. Research has identified several key strategies that contribute to thriving educational environments. First off, schools must create spaces that encourage emotional and psychological safety. This means fostering supportive relationships, promoting inclusion, and ensuring that all students and staff feel respected and valued. Now, I know I've mentioned this many times throughout this educational series of videos, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So, in order to begin this work of fostering supportive relationships at a collegiate level, from a teacher-student level, from a teacher-administration level, this work needs to begin individually. The work that teachers do on themselves will inherently benefit their students and ultimately everybody around them, and not just in a classroom setting. And unfortunately, in our current model, that isn't always possible. I'm not going to go into this too far here because we've talked about it before, but you can't do for others what you haven't done for yourself. People can only meet you as deeply as they have met themselves. Moving on. So the first strategy that we're going to talk about is fostering autonomy. Now, again, we've talked about this many times, but let's just run through it just in case. One of the most powerful ways to support well-being is by encouraging autonomy. So this is giving teachers and students the freedom to make choices about their work and their learning. Autonomy is associated with higher motivation, greater engagement, and overall well-being. And the second one is promoting positive relationships. Positive relationships are at the heart of thriving schools. Encouraging empathy, collaboration, and mutual respect between students and teachers enhances both emotional and social well-being. Schools need to prioritize relationship-building activities such as peer mentoring, team-building exercises, and social-emotional or SEL programs. We could really take an entire video and break down each and every strategy that we're talking about here, because I'm only giving a very quick and brief explanation of these things, but we have 3 more, so let's get into them. The third one is integrating mindfulness practices. Mindfulness can significantly improve both student and teacher well-being by reducing stress, enhancing emotional regulation, and promoting focus. Simple mindfulness techniques such as deep breathing and meditation can be integrated into daily routines. I really like box breathing. I do box breathing a lot personally, and I've taken that into classrooms as well, where you breathe in through 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, inhale for 4, 4, 4. Do you get it? It's a box, in, out. And the box breathing does have a way of regulating us from a neuroscientific perspective too, so that's really interesting. But a lot of mindfulness activities are supported by actual research and science, which is nice. Number 4 is building meaning and purpose. Schools can cultivate a sense of meaning by ensuring that students see the value in what they are learning and how it connects to their lives and future goals. Teachers should aim to teach in ways that highlight the relevance and importance of the curriculum, providing opportunities for students to explore their own interests and passions. And this comes back to the idea of relatedness or scaffolding when you're engaging in lesson planning and lesson delivery. I would say that when I was a classroom teacher, about 90% of my lesson plans, like the actual document that I brought to the lesson, was thrown out the window quite quickly, because even though I knew my students, as soon as I started engaging with them about a specific topic, I knew I wanted to do something different that would be more meaningful or more related to them. But that is difficult to do though, because you actually have to be present and listening. And with teacher burnout, one of the first things to go is your presence. You just kind of click yourself into overdrive and here's my paper and I'm going to stick to it, right? It's hard to get out of it, but it is worth it for everybody's sake. And the very last one is supporting teachers' well-being. We've talked about this so much, so I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible, but let's get into it. Teachers need access to resources that support their mental and emotional health. This includes professional development opportunities, access to counseling services, and a supportive work environment where teachers can collaborate and share strategies for managing stress and burnout. I don't remember where I heard it, but instead of burnout, I heard rust out when it comes to teachers. So if we conceptualize burnout, that usually means that there is a climax in the Freytag's pyramid, that there's a moment where a teacher has to go on a break or a leave or retires or quits or something. There's a break in the chain of regular scheduled programming when we think of burnout. But rust out, is somehow even worse. Rust out means that you just become complacent and you stay forever and just slowly rust. That's sad. How sad is that? That's so sad. But I would need more than one hand to count how many teachers I know that are in that situation. And honestly, I would have been there myself too, so I can't blame them. And so much of it is fixable. I've been doing so well at not deviating from the script, so I'm gonna drive my eyes back down and we're gonna get into the last chapter. Children's mental health has become an increasingly important issue in education. And this is interesting too, because the importance has always been there, but the need to attend to mental health issues has never been higher, because there are so many different variables right now that are acting upon the students in our classrooms that are creating quite a unique educational landscape when it comes to anxiety and depression and addiction issues and attention issues. And a lot of it does stem from our colonial structure. A lot of it does stem from bigotry and discrimination. A lot of it does stem from the coronavirus and the legacy that that leaves on our educational system and on our whole system, our own life, our personal well-being. But whether we realize it or not, all of these things really mix together into a big dysfunctional pie. But when the pie comes out of the oven and you cut that into slices, you're not able to assess the ingredients at that point. It's all together. I've heard the argument of, oh, everybody has an attention issue these days. Oh, everybody's autistic these days. Oh, everybody's gay these days, right? And if you do look at the data, it does show that more diagnoses of these things, the first two, you're not in fact diagnosed homosexual, but if we do look at the data of how many people have been diagnosed with these issues, it does look like it's rising. But something that I always like to think about is the rate of left-handedness throughout the 19th century. And one of my favorite graphs to look at here is this one about left-handedness. If we look at this graph, just really logically, it would show that there was a span of time where the amount of people who are left-handed skyrocketed. And you start to wonder, why in the world would this happen? And if you start to think about really outlandish reasons of, oh, maybe a bunch of people lost their right hands, or who knows, it could be anything. But if we actually unpack the reason why this data is the way that it is, but there was an amount of time where if you were a left-handed person, you very well could have been accused of being a witch, which would have had its own negative consequences. And this time throughout this graph is when that discrimination started to lessen, so people were less afraid to be left-handed and maybe even be surveyed about their left-handedness. So it's not necessarily that all of these cases are rising. These cases existed previously, but now these people are seeking help. Because really, if you do start to pull at the strings, everything's going to come crumbling down. And in my opinion, it needs to. I've had lots of experiences in schools, and I don't know if I have met that many people who were well. That's a sobering thought, isn't it? And it's not some big, hyperbolic, everybody was depressed. No, that's not the case. But overall, a general sense of well-being at school, nope. And it wasn't me either. And I don't think I'm the outlier with my experiences here. I think this is something that a lot of people, teachers, almost everybody I would believe is struggling with. So in order to address mental health, we need to take away the stigma and the bias of, oh, everybody's gonna have it if we start dealing with mental health. I'm like, okay, well, if they do, we need to start helping them. We need to start helping them if they do. Back to the script. Mental health problems can have a significant impact on a child's ability to learn, engage, and thrive in school. Brown and Shay suggest that schools have a role in not just addressing academic needs, but in promoting the mental health and emotional well-being of students. An important part of this is creating an environment that values identity building and resilience, where students feel secure and confident in themselves and their abilities. The focus on identity building is particularly important for marginalized or vulnerable students, including those from Indigenous communities. to us LGBTQ+ students and those facing systemic barriers. I did get quite far into this video without discussing Danielle Smith and her plans for our education system here in Alberta, but policies that keep gender-affirming care out of the hands of people that need it the most is discriminatory and directly competes with the peer-reviewed research that I present to you in this video. We know how to help students. We know how to help people. We, as a collective educational community, have the means to help people be well, but we don't. Why? I'm not answering that. I want you to answer that in your head right now. Let's keep going. By providing opportunities for students to explore and express their identities, schools can promote self-worth and resilience. Moreover, interventions that foster self-esteem, self-efficacy, and social connection help students build the mental and emotional tools they need to navigate challenges to thrive. Creating thriving educational environments requires intentional effort and a commitment to prioritizing well-being at all levels, from teacher well-being to student engagement, from fostering autonomy to creating supportive relationships. The strategies we use in schools directly impact the thriving of everyone in the community. By focusing on both hedonic and eudaimonic aspects of well-being, students can create environments that are not only supportive and nurturing, but also enriching and transformative. As we continue to explore and implement these strategies, we can ensure that education is not just about academic achievement, but about growing, flourishing, and thriving in all areas of life. Thanks for watching this video on thriving in educational settings. Feel free to check out my other education videos here in the playlist that is going to roll right away. I appreciate you being here, and until the next one, goodbye.